Hello everyone, I'm Kim. As Javier already said, I'm a student here at Maya. And since about a year, I came across the topic of dog TV actually in a course at Maya. And I kind of got stuck with it. And so I'm now doing my master thesis on this thematics. So in the last decade, media technologies designed for pets have become increasingly prominent and have raised new questions about non-human relationships in the domestic home. Among these, Dog TV, an American television network launched in 2012 to broadcast programming tailored for dogs, stands out as a curious case of media designed for non-human viewers. Developed in consultation with behavioral scientists and veterinarians, Dog TV promises to entertain, reduce stress, ease separation anxiety, and stimulate dogs when they are left at home. At first glance, Dog TV appears to be an act of interspecies empathy, a form of new social media or reality TV show designed for dogs with dogs as actors. The visuals are adjusted to suit their perception, colors calibrated to dogs' limited spectrum, movement slowed to match their attention spans, sound frequencies to optimize their hearing, but this seemingly dog-centered media world is constructed entirely through human decisions. These technologies raise pressing ethical questions about animal rights, surveillance, and animal labor, and mark a historically significant transformation in interspecies cohabitation and communication. It highlights how contemporary technologies not only expand the design of interiors to include non-human inhabitants, but also stage new performances of affection, care, companionship, within the everyday life of the home in the 21st centuries. Digital domestication, Dog TV, refers not only to the domestication and cohabitation of dogs and humans, but simultaneously to the domestication and integration of media and technology. It describes not only the purposefully taming of dogs, but also the modification of their behavior through training and other socio-cultural interactions, such as the production, consumption, and integration of media technologies. Dogs with whom we live in a close companionship with their highly emotional being and cognitive intelligence, they still live under a system that objectifies them as a legal entity, and compared to any other animals, we see them as more worthy beings. The home as a mediated space. So today, we live in a society that not only consumes more and more digital media, but a society that also seems more and more affected by pets, especially dogs. So in America, for example, the number of dog owners have risen about a third from 46 million in 2010 to about 68 million in 2025. When we think back in 2010, it was also the time where Instagram and TikTok got launched. And also comparing to Switzerland, here we actually have much more cats than dogs. We have about 1.3 million cats and about like 550,000 dogs. And also the integration of home devices such as pet cameras leads to a mediated architecture with overlapping screen-based realities. So what is Dog TV? Because when I talk to people, actually many people don't really know what I'm talking about. So what is Dog TV? Dog TV is a television streaming service designed specifically for dogs. Its programming is created based on animal behavior research and is meant to reduce stress, anxiety when dogs are home alone, provide mental stimulation through movement, sound, and colors that dog can perceive well, offer calming, relaxing segments as well as more stimulating play segments, help with issues like separation anxiety or lack of enrichment over the day. And I quote, It's TV for dogs, calm, happy, engaged. Because your dog deserves the best. Happier dogs watch dog TV. Ready to unlock the full dog TV experience? Choose a pay plan below. Cancel anytime. Happier dogs start here. They don't ask for much, but they give us everything. What if you could give them just a little more? And so here you can actually see the programming of dog TV. So it features 24/7 live streams for dogs, 24/7 relaxation for dogs, and their main category is actually stimulation, relaxation, and exposure. So in the stimulation category, you can see images that are much more kind of stimulating. They're like active movement because dogs actually react a lot to movements, and also the sound is much more kind of more fast, and also they have sometimes they have like squeaky sounds in it. In the relaxation category, it's designed to really calm the dogs at home with also like calming visuals of puppies, and the movement in the videos is much more slow, and it should help to reduce anxiety and stress. And also the music of it is most of the times it's kind of like classical music. Then this category is the third category in it, and it's actually designed to more train the dog that and also expose dogs to that are, for example, reactive to other animals such as fish or birds and so on. But on the right-hand side, you can also see an image that should also help dogs to get used to sounds like doorbells and fireworks. And as I said earlier, so the content is actually created by, they studied different research all over the world and created this programming, adjusted to that. And so in this, I actually have to look at it myself. In this chart, you can see how humans and dog actually see different. So when you compare it to humans, dogs actually have to go much closer to, for example, a television in order to see a sharp image. Then they also have a different color spectrum. So dogs actually see more in the spectrum of blue tones and yellows, and also gray tones. And they also see in much higher frames per second. So that means that if, for example, you have a movie that is on 25 frames per second, that they actually see more like flickering. And so their content is also created with a much higher refresh rate. Then apart from dog TV, there was obviously also a lot of other influencers and YouTube channels that occurred. We have, for example, the one here in the middle. It's the dog cam. It is a video programming of 10-hour-long dog walks that is filmed by the owner of the dog. So like the owner and the dog go on these long walks, and you have this GoPro that is on top of the dogs. And so you have this kind of, if the dogs is consuming this content, he is kind of in this illusion of nature. Then you also have the farm TV, the farm dog TV, which is more something like a reality TV show, because you can, it's dogs that are filmed on the farm and their daily life, how they act and play together. And so when I started the research, I was also look at the evolution of the object of the television, and I wanted to know how we got here. So I was looking into the object of the television, but also on how dogs appeared on television and how this kind of evolved to today. So I'll just kind of quickly go through this history. So here you can see the brown tube of Karl Ferdinand Braun. It's German scientist, and his technology actually became part of every TV up until the 20th century. Then you have the Scottish scientist John Logie Baird, and he was kind of the first guy who invented the television, and he also broadcasted the first television signal from New York to London. Then here is the RCA Victor color television. It's the first mass-produced color television, and you can also see how back then the television was more a piece of furniture that was also on a lower level, and that was more integrated into a home with these wooden panelings. And then here you can see the Telstar. It's the first transatlantic television satellite link between USA and Europe. And also for myself, when I look at these images, I obviously have no idea how these things work. And still I use it every day. Then here you have the first HD TV television, and going to the first plasma television. And only from here, 2001, actually dogs were starting to see a more clearer image because the refresh rates got more higher. So from the 2000s to 2010s, dogs started to see an image on the television. And what changed massively, I think, in the consumption and also integration of television in the home is when smart TV got invented, and where TVs actually had an internet integration into the object. And so here it was the time of what was it? Big Brother and so on. And so later on, actually today, with the invention of dog TV that was in 2012, and later on in 2023, we have the first television that is actually produced for dogs. So here you can see an object that is supposedly designed for dogs. It has a motion sensor inside that detects the dog who's approaching the television. You have also a live camera that can that you can actually look at the dog from when you're at work. And you also have a built-in color calibrator. Then I was also looking at dogs in film. So here you see the first dog that appears on film. You can see it over here. And then later on you have the first kind of actors like Rintintin, but also rescued by a rover in 1905, and also Lassie. And here, these dogs portrayed adventurous heroes and affectionate family dogs. And I also believe that with these movies, a lot of people probably got more affectionate towards dogs. And then later on, I was also obviously digging into films that were actually showing dogs watching television. And what I found really interesting here is this cartoon that kind of humanizes these dogs. And also because during this time it was also not able, dogs were not really able to watch television, which also happens here where the family or television watching is really portrayed as the main activity around the house, which also changed over time. And in the middle of it is also their dog. Here you have another scene of Legally Blonde, where Underdog is watching himself in the TV. And finally, we arrive here in 2012 to Dog TV. What I also found super interesting in this research is also how dogs are actually portrayed in TikTok accounts and influencer accounts. And in this image, you can see an accumulation of things that happen. So you have these two dogs that are kind of used by this influencer, and she is using this stand TV to show them the cartoon Bluey, which is actually also a very liked cartoon to show to dogs. And here you can see kind of this staging of care that these influencers use. So they kind of use the television to perform a certain amount of care that they put on dogs. And so this is also why I want to talk about why dog TV. And so I think that with looking at dog TV, I think we can learn a lot about ourselves, how we think about ourselves, but also our relationships toward animals and also dogs. There is also this one quote of Mark Twain: "The more I learn about people, the more I like my dog." And I was, in my research, I'm kind of interested in this evolution spiral of technology in general. And I think that this, that dog TV is an amazing case study and exemplifies this like fast-moving world in which we live in, and these like ongoing processes. And in this research, I'm kind of like, I have to go one more back. How kind of the appearance of dogs in media kind of feedbacks into the adoption of dogs, but also how dog TV or other technologies change the relationship at home between dogs and humans, which also then finally changes how we design and share. So yes, and what I'm doing in my research, because also how we integrate technology in our home has kind of a spiral. So we invent, for example, the phone, and we integrate it into our daily life, and all of a sudden it's this awkward technology that we have in our lives, but all of a sudden it's completely integrated and you don't even notice it. And so with dog TV, I'm kind of questioning this evolution spiral, and I'm also questioning on where we are standing now with this. And so I was looking into different media researchers on technology, like Roger Silverstone, who describes the steps as technology gets integrated into everyday life, uses an environment change and adapt accordingly, which feedbacks into innovation processes. And finally, when technology is fully integrated and invisible, we start to have conversations on how this technology has the status of reflecting the cultures of a household. And in another part that I came across, it's from Nancy K. Baim. I still have to, it's a researcher from Microsoft. And then she describes this process with more effective words. She describes it in the integration of mobile phones in our lives. So what once seemed marvelous and strange, capable of creating greatness and horror, is now so ordinary as to be invisible. And so being in this spiral of constant progression, I'm asking myself, where do we stand with dog TV? And so I'm just kind of going through some moments that I'm finding in dog TV. So finally here we are in a moment where people are integrating technologies like the Furbo dog cam. It's a dog that has different functions. You can actually, it's a dog camera that you can install at home, but also you can connect it to your television. And it detects barking, but also puking, and it gives you an alarm to your phone. But you can also interact with them. The dog does not really see you, but he can listen to you. You can talk to them with affirming words, and you can also tap a button, and so he gets a cookie. And yeah, so using these technologies, the consumer obviously gets this kind of this sensation of reassuring or safety, and it should also reduce stress when needed. It sounds weird. And exactly, and with this technology, you can give these like reassuring treats. Then looking at dog TV, I found it also super interesting at looking at aesthetic studies, like the aesthetic of cuteness, and also a book that was written by Joshua Paul Dale. And when looking at dog TV, it gets clear, and I quote, that dogs appeal to consumers with their cute appearance. Cuteness is one of the most culturally pervasive aesthetic of the new millennium, and its rapid social proliferation suggests that the affective responses it provokes find particular purchase in a contemporary era marked by intensive media saturation and spreading economic precarity. So, dogs with their cute appearance have been used in advertisements to gain the consumer's affection. Our social media feeds are filled with dogs' portraits. This strategy is also used in the marketing of dog TV and in YouTube channels, in which their aesthetic communicates a harmless tool that should reassure the owners for their good intention. And also looking at this, I also kind of ask, do we consume dogs? Do we only consume dogs? And at the same time, humans using this technology are creating illusions or playing outside. They create blurred limitations of the dogs who sits at home and who looks into an illusion of nature. But I also find these strange imagery of dogs as powerful dogs in a capitalist apparatus. When we look at influencers with accounts, like for example, a guy and a golden, it gets clear that dogs are not just dogs, but they're really powerful, because with dogs, for example, in this account, he has, for example, 3 times more likes than Kim Kardashian has. And it got really clear that by using dogs in our capitalist system, that you can create more wealth with it. And yes, and I think that dog TV is really a case study that kind of shows this entanglement and also kind of hidden systems that we are also consuming every single day. And so finally, I want to ask, but what if my dog does not seem interested? And it's the customer support of this TV. Thank you.